through pretty quickly. But Rena, thanks for the invitation to connect with you tonight and go live and share this. For starters, we're going to cover something that I know very little about, if I'm just perfectly honest. But I'm sure it's something that everyone who's tuning in is wanting to learn about and who's equally concerned about. And that is EMF and Wi-Fi, and in particular 5G and how it affects our health. Before we get started, though, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and some of the things that prompted you to, I guess, become a whistleblower?
Yeah, totally. It's a big one. I just wanted to start off by saying I read a quote just before I got on here, and it was from P.T. Berkey, and he said that it's so wonderful when you meet someone who's already got their mask off in this masquerade of life. And I think that we can both agree that life is a masquerade, especially right now. And on some level, we all play our roles. But I think the time has come, and speaking for me personally as well, we can't remove, you can't remove that mask without removing some of your own skin. And I think that's what I'm doing here tonight. And
Fantastic.
putting my skin in the game, I guess, my reputation, the avalanche of scrutiny that's going to come, I'm sure, my way. But most importantly, I just want to lift the veil on the corruption of the wireless industry and what I know they're not telling the public. So I'm really excited to be having this talk with you. It's one of my first Facebook Lives. So I hope everyone's tuning in and getting some info
Well,
that they're going to value.
yeah, I just salute you, Renat, because none of us signed up for this. We long ago that we thought we all had these careers and these different industries that we could participate in, and that they were progressive or perhaps doing the right thing or advancing things for the betterment of society. And we've come to see that whether it be different industries or different institutions, they've turned quite nefarious, and there's all sorts of corruption and cover up and deceit that we're seeing across the board. So I just salute you for having some skin in the game, taking off your mask and coming out here, because why I jumped on this opportunity is I guess there's so many people out there who are looking for credible people to come forward with credible and accurate information. And as someone as yourself who had several years experience in the telco industry that you're going to share with us, you're exactly the sort of people that we need to come forward and speak and share the truth. So over to you.
Great. So I'll dive straight into it. So yeah, as you said just before, Dave, I'm an ex-telco marketer. People like to call me a whistleblower. So I was part of the marketing team that launched Australia's first national 3G service. So we were able to do a lot of things on wireless that we previously couldn't do. We were suddenly able to picture message and stream videos and access the internet. Cameras in phones were taking off, emails on the go, all that. And at the time, it was a really huge undertaking, and it was a controversial one because it cost $1 billion. It was 5 times faster than 100 times geographically bigger than any other 3GSM mobile network that we had in Australia. And Telstra were the first company here in Australia or abroad to launch such a far-reaching, high-speed wireless broadband network. And it was done in less than a year. And in fact, Telstra, built the new network in over 5,000 new sites, and it took 10 months. And it was my job to market all the ways you could use the technology, and it was exciting. We got to test this stuff before it came on the market. And I really genuinely thought what I was doing was a good thing for the community, marketing 3G and supporting technological potential. And that's when I came face to face after the launch with what was overwhelming concern from my market. And I started asking questions around safety, and I got stonewalled. And I just genuinely thought, what's the big deal? I thought there was no issue here. We've done safety testing, so all these concerns we can just vaporize, But it turns out that there was a lot of, hidden secrets in the industry that they didn't want the public to know. So I'm going to get into that. But more to the point, what I did learn caused me an immense amount of guilt. In fact, I actually went on a runaway train as soon as I found out and left for Europe for 9 years. And when I did move back, I moved back to Byron, and I went to my first farmer's market, and I got handed a Stop 5G flyer, and that's where I realised it's gone too far and I've got to do something about it. So me kind of coming out now from where I was for 18 months now, which is behind the scenes, and we've been lobbying as a group here in the Northern Rivers. We got Australia's first moratorium. We've been working so hard, and I'm so proud of my team. But this campaign is my opportunity to give back what, and I think this is what everyone can do. You know, if you've got a skill set, you've got to lean into it, and you've got to give back right now, because there's no other time to do it. It's now. And so this is sort of my contribution to what it is that I know in making it right. And to put things right is the reason I've come on this chat with you, Dave, today. And I'm going to talk to you about a global campaign that we're launching called We Are Not Sam, and that uncovers secrets in the industry that they don't want you to know. But I think as a context, I think most people ask me, can you please summarize for me what is 5G? Because it's just such a enigma almost. People just can't grasp it because it's so futuristic. So I want to be able to paint that picture first and then go into the campaign and sort of more of the corruption on the inside. So does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds great, because for someone like myself, I need things. Look, I'm not a highly scientifically minded person. I wouldn't say I'm a scientific dummy, but I think part of the mystery around 5G and part of the confusion is that it's invisible. We can't see it. We don't have degrees in visible light spectrum and radiation and radiology and all this sort of stuff. And it's obviously such in-depth technology that for most of us, it goes into the too hard basket. We're all being bombarded with information overload. And I think one of the things we all face right now is that there's so much concern around so many different topics, whether it be things like geoengineering, weather engineering, or nanotechnology injections, or whether it be corrupt politicians and all this sort of thing. So we're kind of swamped with all this information. But I think 5G, because it's so ever present and it's becoming so all pervasive, it's an incredibly important issue. So if you could, I guess, summarize for the layperson how we've gone from 3G, or what third generation to fifth generation actually entails, and how we wrap our heads around that, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. And I'll also kind of point to all those issues that you just talked about now, because in my opinion, it is the remote control. 5G is the remote control for all of these issues. So I'll get into that as well. So let's talk about, there's two types of 5G. There's ground-based 5G and there's space 5G. So I'll talk first about ground-based. Now, what they want you to think is that fifth generation technology, which is 5G, is simply the newest iteration of the mobile network, that interconnects your mobile device and other internet-driven services, and that it will somehow operate alongside all these earlier generations. But the truth is that this 5G is set to deliver what is acknowledged to be unprecedented societal change on a global scale. So we will have smart homes, smart businesses, smart highways, smart cars, virtually everything we own and buy, from refrigerators to washing machines to milk cartons, hairbrushes and nappies, they'll contain antennas and microchips, and they'll be connected wirelessly to the internet. So this is called the Internet of Things, IoT. And the millimeter waves, they don't travel really easily through buildings. So 5G will require millions of new, what's called small cell antennas. And these are like backpack size antennas that transmit data to and from mobile devices. Whereas in the past, there might have been a tall mobile phone tower off in the distance. Now these antennas are being placed, and as well, where you are as well, Dave, in the Gold Coast, on utility poles and lamp posts, just outside people's homes and businesses. And they're beaming signals into second floor bedrooms. And you see this, in order to transmit the enormous amount of data required for this Internet of Things, we've got to, this is going to be a poorly transmitted laser beam that doesn't work well through solid materials. So these small cells are every 100 to 200 meters. And they're going to be taking over urban areas. And I'm talking everything from street fixtures, power poles, bus shelters, everything. And nobody is monitoring the accumulative effect. So it's not just, it's my mobile phone giving me exposure, but it's, your laptop, your iPad, your earpod, your Bluetooth on your speakers, your neighbor's Wi-Fi. And nobody's measuring all that accumulative, wireless radiation. So this is where the conflict of everything lies with 5G, because it's going to create the Internet of Things, and it will create more exposure to wireless devices. It's not a replacement to 3G and 4G. It's an addition. And, these are frequencies that are currently being used for 5G. It's like between 3.5 and 3.6 gigahertz, which a lot of people here won't understand, and that's okay. But 5G radio frequencies will go up to millimeter waves, which is 26 to 28, and that auction goes off next year. And military grade weapon is at 95. So the spectrum that they're allowed in Australia right now, it's up to 300, when 95 is a weapon. So it's insanity. It really is. And unlike previous generations, we're talking 2 or 3 or 4G, where you've got that single antenna in the distance. When you've got multiple antennas arranged in like phase arrays, like beaming from every which direction, they're like steerable laser-like beams that track each other, so that all your devices, your coffee machine can talk to your milk carton, can talk to your phone and your iPhone and your iWatch or whatever. And each 5G phone will contain dozens of tiny antennas, and they're all working together to track and aim to narrowly focus the beams at the nearest, tower or small cell. And it's about 10 to 100 times more powerful than what we have now. And it's never, ever been tested for safety. So we're literally flying blind. And when it comes to accountability, there's no regulatory body, no government, no manufacturer, no health official, no corporation that are taking accountability. In fact, the top insurers in the world, which are Swiss Re and Lloyd's of London, they've said, we're not going to insure the wireless industry because it's a high risk industry. So we are, these are the men in black suits, they're saying we're not going to insure you. Well, there's a reason for that. There's over 2,000 peer-reviewed reports that are showing biological harm from wireless radiation. 2,000. So of course they don't want to insure. And you've got professors, like Dr. Martin Paul, he's the professor of biochemistry and medical sciences in Washington University. He says, putting in tens of millions of 5G antennas without a single biological test of safety has to be about the stupidest idea anyone has had in the history of the world. And it is. It's absolutely ludicrous. And when we move on to space-based 5G, we've got at least 5 companies right now that are proposing 5G from space. There's 20,000 satellites they want in low to medium Earth's orbit that will blanket the Earth with powerful focused steerable beams. And it will irradiate areas of the Earth not reached by other transmitters, and will be an additional ground-based 5G transmission. So it'll be on top of what we have on the ground. And we're talking about 5G for every person on Earth from every point of the planet, and it's even in the rainforest, mid-ocean and Antarctic. It's where we go to switch off and reconnect. It'll all be covered with 5G. And, we've got what's being proposed to be 200 billion transmitting objects for 5G. That's according to estimates. That will be part of the Internet of Things. So 200 billion transmitting objects. That's widely acknowledged now in the industry. So if this plan does come to fruition, there's no person, no animal, no bird, no insect, no plant that will be able to avoid this 24-hour a day, 365-day a year exposure. And it will be irreversible, the effects on human, on the human psyche, as well as, permanent damage to all of the Earth's ecosystems. And we know that through the research. So yeah, just to bring it all back, 5G is just really a deceptive name, but it's implying a simple upgrade when in fact it's, a very clever ruse, of what it really means, which is densification of this technology, which is untested. And, it's going to be like targeting us and every ecosystem millions of times a day, like silent bullets. And, so that's the summary of 5G. I think that'll probably give enough people a scare.
Brilliant and scary and concerning and overwhelming, to say the least, but a fantastic overview. But I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate, if that's okay, because this is what we get from people out there who are saying, oh, these companies wouldn't do such a thing. Why would they risk their own health? And that's one thing that you do hear a lot. They'll say to you, well, why would such powerful companies risk their own health and implement such technologies if they've got their own families and their own children and their own children go to schools that are going to have these harmful technologies installed. What do you say to that? Because I think it's a fair question. There's a strong drive from obviously these super powerful executives of these mega companies in the telecom industry. Don't they care for their own health or their own families? What would you say to that?
I mean, I would say that they care more about the bottom line than they do about health and safety. And that's been really, Tom Wheeler, if you guys look him up, he's sort of a big lobbyist for the 5G network. And he basically said point blank, he goes, we're not going to let safety get in the way of, billions of dollars. And how do you explain that kind of attitude?
Right.
It's really hard because we don't come from that place, Dave. We don't come from a place of greed and money making and control. So for us to be able to understand that, it's really hard. But I can say there's a huge community of people around the world that are saying no and pushing back. And you've got to do things on a local level. You've got to find a community and a tribe. If you haven't found a tribe by now in the state of the world that it is, that's really concerning. If you still feel like you have to gag yourself in front of, your friends and your family, you can't speak your truth, that's part of what they rely on that. They rely on you not being able to speak up. And I think we're living in a world right now, everyone's heard of the Great Reset, right? I'm sure on this call. But, this can't be the Great Reset that they want it to be. It has to be on our terms.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing this across so many different industries. And the way that, look, you would have seen, for instance, a really good example, that video that came out of all those doctors in Europe, that, like, about a half an hour long video of some of the top epidemiologists, top doctors, top virologists who have all come out and said there is absolutely no way that this is a pandemic, and there is absolutely no way that this vaccine or this injection is safe. I don't even want to say that word because I'll get banned. But this injection is safe. They've categorically said it is not safe and do not take it. So you've got thousands of doctors driving the agenda, and then thousands of doctors wake people up. And I guess it's the same with the telecoms industry as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've just had a recent report I'll go into in a second, and it had over 3,500 medical doctors and the top EMF scientists around the world sign it and say that we've got to classify this technology as a carcinogen. And it's being buried in the media. I mean, this is the same story over and over again. It's, the media push an agenda, they're advertisers. And one of the safest things you can do for your well-being is not to watch TV.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm a big believer in responsibility, and I think, there's a blame game to be had, and there's definitely accountability and responsibility and there are fingers that need to be pointed in the right direction. But at the same time, I also believe that we've got to take responsibility on our decisions and our behaviours, because we are feeding this system. And a good friend of mine, Jambi, he says, 5G, it's a symptom of our disconnection with nature. When we are connected to nature, we don't, they lose, we win. And this technology advancement is really to disconnect that, and create robotic human beings, really.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It started to look a lot like the dystopian future of sci-fi movies happening very, very quickly. So, I'd really love to hear more about the topics you wanted to cover tonight, Renat.
yeah.
I'd definitely like to try and keep the call to maybe around sort of 40 minutes as well, and then
That's easy.
yeah,
Perfect.
we can do a follow-up again the following Sunday with some more information. Because I know most of us only have an attention span of about half an hour, 40 minutes.
Same here. So I'll jump into how mobile phones are safety tested, which is what I've uncovered, and it's also the global campaign that was launched just over a week ago now, which is fantastic. It's got support from all over the world, which is great. So in the same way that truth and public health suffered at the hands of the tobacco and the asbestos industries, 5G phones are being pushed on the market despite a lack of independent, long-term studies to show they're safe. So it's shocking now. People will learn right now is that for the last 25 years, our mobile phones, even the 5G phones coming to the market now, they've been tested on a plastic dummy head filled with liquid. It's a specific anthropomorphic mannequin, aka SAM. So if
Okay,
the liquid,
sorry, can we
I'll
just
stop.
repeat that again? So
Yeah.
they're not being tested on humans, they're being tested on dummies.
That's right. So mobile phones since the mid-90s have been tested only on a plastic dummy filled with liquid. And if this liquid inside the plastic dummy head doesn't heat up by more than 1 degree Celsius after 6 minutes, it's certified as safe, and millions of these so-called tested smartphones go for sale.
Okay,
And that has been the
this,
test since the mid-90s.
this is insane. Can you repeat that? That's the only testing they're doing is on a dummy, and if the liquid heats up by less than 1 degree, the phones
Yep. They get to choose
test.
their own lab, and they only have to test one phone. It's not a biological test. They're testing for heating effect on a plastic dummy that has no skin, no organs, no DNA, no bones, no cells. And this dummy is actually based on a 100 kilogram, 6 foot military recruit. So he doesn't even represent children, women, or the elderly. And many people have smaller and thinner skulls than Sam. And research actually shows that children absorb up to 150% more radiation than this plastic dummy. And yet, scientists have been throwing their arms in the air for decades. And we work with them as part of this movement, saying that this test is absolutely ludicrous. And they've been getting away with it for 25 years. So, in other words, if you've got a rigged test, then you can get a technology on the market. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? And so what have we got now? An epidemic of people addicted to their phones, and all because it was never safety tested in the first place.
This is just so extraordinary. Like, how could you possibly know what the biological consequences are on something that has no biological properties, a piece of plastic with liquid in it? This is just extraordinary information to find out. That's the criteria they've set to see if the phones are safe, but it's got nothing that relates to human beings whatsoever or any life form.
That's
Extraordinary.
it. That's it. And the reality is that we're actually the test dummies, because when you're
Right.
not testing a genuine test, then all those 2,000 peer-reviewed reports that are showing that it's causing biological harm, it's just proven the fact that, well, we've been the test dummies the whole time.
Right.
And, the campaign's called We Are Not Sam, and you can find us, one word, on Facebook or on Instagram. And, we base our concerns on the work of, world-leading EMF scientists. We're talking about 250 of the top EMF scientists from 42 countries. They've actually appealed to the World Health Organization and the UN, asking for biologically based exposure standards. And they're still not getting it, and they've been doing this for decades. So
Can I ask you? Can I ask you on that? I think, look, the UN and the WHO have had such a bad rap lately, in particular over the whole malarkey. Why is it, do you think, that these credible doctors and scientists trying to do exactly the same thing that you're doing, and to warn people about the consequences and get these studies out to the public arena, why don't you think they're getting out?
they're not getting out, or they are?
No, why, like in the mainstream, like we're only hearing, like for instance on the mainstream media, just aggressive marketing of 5G and more on. Why is the message not getting out to the wider public? Why is it still in the realms of conspiracy?
Yeah. Well, the media tend to silence the people that don't speak to their bottom line. I mean, their advertisers are telcos and pharmaceuticals. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. They just don't want to let people know this information. It's available. I mean, it's just a matter of critical thinking, and people hear a bit of information, they can go and research it on their own. And so many people we know have done that. But essentially, the way that the wireless industry works is not that dissimilar to tobacco or asbestos, and in that it actually, the judicial system favours the corporations, because it has this notion where you're innocent until proven guilty, which means you can release a technology and whoops, and then it starts to harm people, and then you start to change something. But that can take decades, like it did with tobacco. And so these scientists who have been releasing the studies and trying to warn us about all the harm that's associated with elevating this technology, and we're talking about, damage to the DNA and genes, effect on your memory. People think, oh, I haven't died of cancer, so nothing's wrong with my phone. But we're talking about learning behaviors, you know, difficulty with attention or sleep disruption, short-term memory and concentration, headaches, dizziness, immune disruption. Then you get skin rashes, cardiac function problems, fertility issues. And then, of course, it leads up to cancer, because it's not like you just go from one, you know, just using a phone to getting cancer. It's a lead up, and people just don't associate with, oh, I'm not sleeping well, I have brain fog, and they're not realizing they're sleeping right with their device next to them.
Right.
So, you know, these are things that we've got to start addressing in terms of behavioral change, because we're almost like with our phones like it's an extra limb. But the truth is that if you look into the compliance section of your mobile phone, you'll actually see that every manufacturer advises that you keep your phone at a minimum of 5 to 25 millimeters away from your body. So you're actually not supposed to be carrying phones in your pocket or in your breast, you know, pocket or whatever, or you know, inside your ear, against your ear, because the way this test dummy is tested is he's tested at a 10 millimeter distance from his head. So you're actually measuring the heating effects of a mobile phone when it's 10 millimeters away from the dummy's head, because when they actually put it against his head, it doesn't pass. And it's yeah, I mean, we can chop this study up 25 ways till Sunday, and it'll still be ridiculous no matter which way we look at it. But essentially, when you've got a rigged test, you've got an industry that can get away with anything, because then what they'll say to you and they do say this on the news, is that, well, it's within standard. Everyone's heard, oh, don't worry, safety, it's within standard. This is the standard. The standard is to test on a plastic dummy filled with liquid. It's a bathtub. They're testing mobile phones on a bathtub.
Isn't it incredible how the testing across numerous issues that affect humans seems to be compromised? The testing seems to be, you know, apparently from credible sources, but they're obviously completely unreliable. And I think, you know, just digressing slightly here, I think the whole pandemic narrative would completely unravel if people knew how utterly flawed the polymerase chain reaction. The PCR test is completely the two words should never go together. Saying PCR and test should not be in the same sentence. And the testing, obviously, and I had no idea that the testing for mobile phones was also severely compromised to not even be doing a biological test. The only benefit of that I could think of is that, thank God, the animals aren't the one being tested on like they normally do, the mice, the guinea pigs, the monkeys, and so on. But still, this is obvious now that we are the guinea pigs here. We are, as you call them. So tell us more, Rinat, about the SAM name. We are not Sam. Where that came from, what the campaign entails. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, that lie that you just mentioned, that, you know, or that 5G is safe, has been claimed to be the biggest cover up on the internet, you know, by leading international lawyer Daphne Tuchova. And she also goes on to say that the top 4 diseases that kill our children and young adults are actually brain tumors, thyroid, testes, and rectal cancer. And that's everywhere we put our cell phones. They're the top 4 diseases that kill our kids. So, you know, we are exposing, this is the heart of the matter, really. We're exposing millions of children to wireless radiation, and both in schools and our homes every day. And it's like when you're drinking alcohol, right? You take one shot of alcohol, but it's dosage, you know, the more you're doing it during the day, the more you're giving your kid an iPad or an iPhone or a babysitter, whatever, it's accumulating this wireless radiation. It's a dosage. It is a drug. And it was designed and engineered for addiction. And that is why they did a rigged test, so that they could get you addicted. And the third phase, which is the real end game, is so they can surveil you. So you can surveil people a lot easier when you've got them addicted to the technology that you're surveilling them on.
I think you can, you know, I had an epiphany, you know, the other day as well. Like, they can also propagandize you so easily as well. Hold your phone, you get a notification from Apple News, and you get the narrative keeps being fired at you. You're just being carpeted. But this little propaganda device, you know, back during the wars, they used to drop flyers from the planes and litter the whole community with propaganda. Now it's just a stream of propaganda coming into your phone, which is, you know, it's incredible when you think about it.
Totally. And I mean, data is the new gold. I mean, what you mentioned there just reminded me of Hunger Games, you know? And, yeah, 5G to me it does feel like the Hunger Games. So, yeah, I mean, with children, yeah, there's just no safety testing for kids. So anytime you give your kid a device, you think, oh, Christmas is coming and I'm buying my kid an iPad or whatever. These devices, they are not safe for kids. It is no different than giving your kid alcohol or cigarette. It is absolutely a carcinogen. It's without question, these devices should not be in the hands of children. So, you know, for us, for this campaign, it's called We Are Not SAM because, you know, obviously we are not dummies and we want proper safety testing. And the fight back starts here. You know, we're uniting with a diverse global, you know, movement, and that's working. You know, we're working for free as volunteers, you know, but we want to see a future free from wireless harm and a future where, you know, people on the planet come first. And to do that, we've got to advocate for real safety testing, and we've got to challenge corporate abuses and move towards a future with safe technology. And we can do that. We can absolutely do that. We're not asking for everyone to put down their phones. We're saying, let's have a look at the safety testing and let's push this industry to give us technology that's safe. Because right now they're getting away with it because no one's pushing back. And that's the Boycott 5G Phones campaign that we're running. And you can go to our website, wearenotsam.com, and go to our petition and sign it. The petitions are going crazy at the moment. It's incredible that we've got people from Sweden, Denmark, and Switzerland, and Austria, and Italy, and Serbia, all across Europe as well, and Australia, US, UK. And it's really important that we boycott 5G phones until they're properly tested, because we've got to stop this train before it's full steam ahead, and we can't. And this is how we do it. We've got to stop it with the 5G phones. So everyone that's pre-ordering these phones now thinking, oh, great, I can't wait for the next iteration of my iPhone. This is not another phone. This is next level. And you're giving yourself a remote control for a future that you do not want to be a part of and you don't want your kids to be a part of. So I'll urge everybody every day to boycott 5G phones. You've got something right now that you've got to start working with in terms of behavioural change. But 5G phones, that's where the buck stops.
Renat, I'm just seeing a couple of comments come through, and a few people saying, oh, where is the proof? You know, the phone is, someone just made a comment, a 5G phone is less output than a light globe, this sort of thing. Where can people start to educate themselves and take this out of the, I guess, the realm of speculation and I don't even like the term, but conspiracy? And where can they get the bona fide facts that their health is at risk?
Yeah, well, on our website, we've got Read the Science, and we've put together some of the top scientific studies that prove what we're saying here today. And we've got the support of the top EMF scientists worldwide, you know, Dr. Ollie Johansson, Om Gandhi, Deborah Davis, Leonard Hardell. I mean, the support's been incredible from the top EMF scientists that have been studying this. But if you guys, I mean, I don't know how many of your viewers are in Australia, but also ORSAA, the incredible database. They've got over 2,000 peer-reviewed reports. And they actually did the research and said that 77.9% of the studies that even looked at millimeter waves showed that there was harmful biological effect. And they've been releasing these reports. The scientists have always been releasing the reports. So you can find them on our website because we knew that question would come. And, you know, you're going to see us on Instagram. We're posting a lot of the scientists that are backing this campaign and what they're saying about this testing method and the research that they've themselves done. So we've always imagined that this campaign stands on the shoulders of the brave scientists who have, you know, been telling us this information for decades. And this is really where this campaign rests on their shoulders. And it's really who inspired this campaign.
I think, you know, anyway, I'm seeing the comments come through from a few skeptics as well. And I just encourage people to, first of all, educate yourselves. You know, Renat's not coming here from someone who just hasn't been in the industry. You have many years in the industry with the largest corporation, the largest telco in Australia. And, you know, obviously talking about, and I encourage people to remember that things like cigarettes were once deemed healthy, things like asbestos were once deemed healthy, things like Roundup, and so on and so forth. There's so many countless examples of things that were deemed healthy because the corporations basically we're only interested in the bottom line and having more customers. And ultimately, it also comes down to, like you're saying, the need to boycott. And I don't think people realize how powerful that is.
Yeah.
When enough people catch on to the fact that companies are operating unethically and harming humans, it's very easy to affect those companies. You just need massive numbers of people to say no, boycott them. And the nature of capitalism is that due to supply and demand, you'll have another alternative come up that's actually beneficial that people want to partake in. And that's the beauty of living in a free economy, which is under threat by these enormous conglomerates that have just so much power, because they do control the media and they do control the and they have got the budgets, but ultimately the power still lies with us to say no. We don't want that. We don't want to deal with that company. The backlash Qantas got, for example, I'm sure Qantas are rethinking their injection policy for their flying mandates and so on. I'm sure they're rethinking that. The backlash was enormous. And now you've got a media campaign trying to restore public confidence in that injection, because public confidence is completely shot. And I think that's what's so great about what you're doing is you need to take people's confidence in their phones so they actually start to question it and realize that this is a potentially deadly device they've got in their hands. So, Rinat, share just a little bit more about the campaign and the website for everyone. Once again, we've got about 270 people still on the call with us.
Great. Well, the website's called wearenotsam, one word, .com. You can read up on Sam, you can read about our story, you can read the science, but most importantly, you've got to read the petition, which is 10 reasons why you've got to boycott 5G phones. I wish it was only one reason, but there are 10. So I'll let your viewers to go through those. There's so many reasons why we need to boycott 5G phones. The fact that it's tested on a plastic dummy is number one. But there are so many other reasons that relate to toxic e-waste and the effect on our bee colonies as well, because as you probably already know, if this actually affects the navigational skills of our bees, and if we lose our bees, which we're on the verge of doing anyways now, then that there goes the bulk of our fresh food supply. So for all the bee lovers out there, and anyone that's interested in finding out what are those top 10 reasons, you go on our website, read the petition and sign it, and sign up to our e-newsletter, where we're being heavily censored right now. We're heavily censored on Facebook. Change.org took down our petition twice within 24 hours, saying that we violated community guidelines. And we're only talking science here. We're referencing everything that we're saying. So we need people to boycott 5G phones. It's not because you don't want to use your phone. It's more because we've got to get proper safety testing, because we're looking forward to future generations and we've got to look out for their best interests. And these 5G phones will be remote controls for a world you don't want to be a part of. And that's the true fact. And we've got to start standing up and rising up now. There is no other time to do it. There's no other time.
Yeah, we are, and I think anyone who's becoming more and more aware of who we are and what we're made of as humans. Nikola Tesla said, when you think of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And these devices and this technology is a direct assault on our frequency and our vibrations. Our bodies and our energy fields are incredibly powerful and subtle processes that are being interrupted by this remarkably powerful technology that is all encompassing. It's all around us everywhere we go. But we are at the point now, like you say, where if enough people stand up now, we can push back against these corporations. So Rinat, I thank you so much. I thank you everyone for tuning in. It's wearesam.com.
We are not.
Sorry. But yeah, just a couple of closing thoughts and comments yourself, Rinat, before we wrap up the call. That'd be great.
I missed that last part. Can you say that again, Dave? Cut out.
If you just want to wrap up the call with a couple of closing comments and
sure.
like share with everyone what they can do and finish on a positive note.
Absolutely. I'll finish by saying something that I just read this morning, but that, we are the ancestors that future generations will call upon for guidance. And this means that we have a duty of care to the people on the planet right now. So I urge everybody to think ahead and to think about not the instant gratification of a device and something new and shiny, but what their long-term consequences would be, especially in time for Christmas. Reconsider all devices that you're buying, because if they're testing on a dummy, you know they're being poorly tested, and we've got to start reconsidering how we're having those conversations with the people that we care and love about, especially our kids, when it comes to devices. So I urge everyone to boycott 5G phones, to make it known that they're boycotting 5G phones, and to come along on this journey. We've got some really exciting campaigns coming up in the next few months, and it's not something that we're not planning to go away very easily, so we're going to keep sticking at it.
Yeah, fantastic. And for everyone who's tuned in on the call, thank you so much. And just remember, your part is needed. Please share the website on your wall, on your social media. Please share your concerns as well about 5G and the new technologies being rolled out without any proper testing. Guys, your part is really, really needed. You know, Renat and I never signed up for this, but we are trying to do our part the best we can, just to raise awareness and push back against things that are being pushed upon us without our consent. So, Renat, on behalf of everyone, thanks for all your amazing work and everything you do. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you tonight.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. We'll catch up again soon.
See you, everyone. Yeah, definitely. See ya.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.